All right, you guys, today's video is just going to be a short video because I want to talk about a certain subject because on the internet, whether TikTok, YouTube, and other platforms, there are certain people out there. One is a guy named Justin on the Deconstruction Zone. He is a very well-learned person in the scriptures. He got his degree in divinity, and he knows Hebrew and things like that, but he butchers up certain things of scripture. And I want to point out it is regarding slavery and in particular Hebrew slaves. Okay, so I want to get in today regarding slavery and polygamy because it's kind of wrapped up in almost in the same commandment. And so what is, how would I word it? Okay. First off, the Old Testament, which we Jewish people call the Tanakh, is condoning two things. It condones outright slavery and polygamy, okay? Both of them. They don't look frowned upon at all. And it was a part of the culture of us Jewish people back in the day. And it is what it is. And most societies had slavery, okay? Now, to just get one side aspect of slavery over with, in Leviticus 25, verse 44 through 46, it talks about chattel slavery. This does not apply to Hebrew people, only non-Jews, okay? So if you're a Canaanite, a Moabite, and wherever else, chattel slavery applied to you. Okay, so what happens is I buy you from a foreign land, or I take you through war. Okay. Excuse me, I lost my voice right there all of a sudden. Anyway, so you buy this foreigner, or you take them in battle, and you cause them to be your slave, and they can be, that's all according up to you, they could be your slave for life. And you could pass those slaves down to your children as an inheritance. It's very vividly clear in Leviticus 25, verse 44 through 46. Okay? And so forth, you could give, have a female slave the same way, and build up your property because they're considered property. And so you bring more slaves into the world, under your umbrella. And so you get wealth that way through slaves, and you could sell them off for money when you breed them. Of course, you have to feed them, clothe them, and all this stuff. So it is, you have to have some financial means to yourself to be a slave owner, because you just can't have a slave just for the sake of it. You can't help them out, So now coming to the Hebrew people, okay? Whether you're, so if a person sells himself as a slave, or if a dad sells his daughter as a slave, as regarding the Hebrew Jewish people, the Hebrews will only serve you for 6 straight years, okay? And at the end of the 6 years, you have to set both of them free. Now, the people on the internet will speak wrong about the female slave, the Hebrew slave, that she's never set free, okay? That's because they misread. Even Justin of the Deconstruction Zone, his a lot of things, many times on his videos, because I've watched over like 40 of them. He constantly brings this up, so it's not like an accident, okay? Like a misquote. He actually believes that the female Hebrew slave is never set free, okay? And so this is how it goes. So he or she serves you for 6 years, and you must set them free. Now, there's different criterias how you set each one free, male or female. The male just leaves. Once he's done, he's out of here. You don't have to give him anything. It's done. But when a father sells his daughter as a slave, the intent is the guy, the master, is betrothing her to become a future wife. Now, granted, let's just use 15 because in biblical times, when you become a woman is when you menstruate. Okay. Now, later on during the rabbinical age, it became a little bit more than that when her breasts drop and things like that. But in old biblical times, it is when you menstruate. That's when you could produce kids. Okay. You got to remember the life expectancy was not as great as it is now, where we could live up, 76 years old. Like the average age span, sometimes they say anyway, was around like 35. So when you're like 15, 17 years old, your life is half done already. So, and if there's war, your life could end even sooner. The times were kind of rough. And so the sooner, the better. So you could sell as a dad, like if you can't afford stuff or whatever, you could sell your daughter off as a slave and you get that money for yourself. And she works for 6 years. But the intent, like I said, of the master is to marry her. That's what you're doing. And that is for himself or for his son only. You cannot give her away to like one of your slaves because the intent was for you to marry her. Okay, this is what Justin and a few others get messed up. And so, let's say it's 15. Okay, you're going to marry her at 15. That's the calculation. So maybe starting at 10 years old, you can have her to be a servant girl for you. Maybe not hard because you don't want to wreck her, have her all worn out and beaten, like raisin skinned already as a young kid, or, things like that. You want to keep her pristine as possible. So you might want to give her more of an easy job, But nonetheless, at the end of 6 years, for the female now, there's 4 ways she is set free. Where the man, you just let him go. He's good to go. Bye. The woman, however, is 4 things. The first one is you marry her as intended. Okay? And she becomes a free woman and a full wife. Okay? If you didn't originally intend for you to marry her, you marry her off to your son. And so that's the second way. You marry her off to her son. Now, if you did intend for you to marry her, but by the end of the 6th year, you find something like displeasing about her, whether, there's just her behavior, her mannerisms, or you feel like she would not be a good mom or things like that, and you say, I'm backpedaling on that. If that's the case, you have to have her family redeem her back. And you never touch her. She's still a virgin. She just gets redeemed back. That's it. So now is the case where polygamy gets into the aspect, okay? And this goes for any wife, for this matter, because you got to remember, in our culture, like we have the Torah today, Genesis through Deuteronomy, but we didn't have those books back then, okay? It didn't exist. Now people will say, oh, Moses wrote it. No, it was somewhere around past Nehemiah's time, because the wording in Nehemiah indicates what we have today didn't exist back then, okay? Because when Nehemiah and Ezra is reading the law, there's stuff missing out of the law, what we currently have. Okay, namely Yom Kippur does not exist. See this in Nehemiah 8 and chapter 9. Okay, especially in chapter 9, because they're doing a Yom Kippur on the 24th or 25th. I can't never remember. So versus the 10th when it's supposed to be. So you could tell Yom Kippur does not exist yet. This is the beginning stages. So Torah we have today was written after Nehemiah 9. But regardless, the 4th way is this. If the man, now, okay, in polygamy, you cannot just marry a chick just because you desire her. Okay, it's a legal contract. And so you cannot marry a woman unless you fulfill 3 things right from the get-go. You could afford her. That even goes for one single wife. You can't just marry some girl just for the sake of it. You have to afford her. And it's a legal binding contract. Okay, so you have to give her marital rights, food, and clothing. So now let's get back to the 4th situation. If you marry another girl, so you have more than one wife, if you neglect this ex-Hebrew slave, these 3 basics, she is free to divorce and free to go. Just go back home. Okay? So that goes with any wife. If you don't fulfill those 3, she's free to go. The wife is free to divorce. You could even read this, in Isaiah chapter 4, where 7 women lay hold of one man and basically said, be with us, I'm paraphrasing, and give us kids. And don't worry about our food and our clothing. So there you have the 3 criteria, but all they want is kids. Now you got to remember, during this particular time of Isaiah, as the men were being wiped out through war, battle, or whatever, an enemy coming in and slaughtering the men out. So there is abundance of women. So it's smarter to keep your population alive if one man is with several women to keep them alive. So that is the 4. Okay, very vividly clear. What Justin and the other people will say or misread is when it's talking about the male. Okay, dealing with the master, the slave owner. It says, now here's this Hebrew guy, and it says, if the master gives him a wife and he produces kids with that wife that the slave owner gave him, then the wife and the children belong to the master. So he will say, and many others will say, see, that is talking about the Hebrew woman. No, it's not. It's talking about a regular slave, because a Hebrew woman has to be set free. That is a regular slave, and that is why the woman and her offspring continue to be under the ownership of the master. Okay, it's his property. So the Hebrew man is raising children for the master, and he's getting some benefits out of it. Now, if he wants to continue to be with that woman, the foreign slave woman, and his new family with the child, he said, I love my kids. I love my wife. I don't want to leave. Then you take him to the elders, and they pierce your ear with an awl, and you make basically a covenant that I am a slave for life to this master. Okay, there you go. So that's it. End of story. It's just that simple. Okay, and there we touched about polygamy as well. So there you go. Thank you for watching. Hit the like and subscribe button. Thank you very much.